ACT1. The trap is set. The rental scam and the arrival. A large, wealthy extended family arrives at the heavily overgrown, long abandoned Camp Crystal Lake. They booked the entire campground through a cheap online listing for a completely private, isolated weekend getaway. As they unpack their bags, one of the uncles looks around at the decaying archery ranges and the faded camp structures hidden in the brush. He turns to Diana, looking a bit skeptical. Mr. Bogger. Hey, Diana, right? Quick question. Looking around. This place looks like an old summer camp. How did it turn into a private cabin rental setup? The online listing made it look a bit different. Diana gives a soft, completely innocent shrug and smiles warmly. Diana. Oh, yeah, it actually was a summer camp a long time ago, but it's been closed for decades. My family actually owns the land now. It's just too much property for us to maintain on our own, so we started listing the old cabins online for private groups who just want to get away from the city and have total privacy. It helps us pay for the upkeep, and you guys get the entire lake to yourselves. Win-win, right? The family nods, totally buying the rustic, family-owned excuse, completely satisfied that they just scored a great deal on a private estate. The approachable caretaker. Diana is a quiet, unassuming young woman wearing normal, everyday casual daytime clothes. As the property manager handling the grounds, she is incredibly helpful, handing out keys and fixing generators. Because the family group is so large and chaotic, no one questions her presence any further. She just blends into the background as the staff. Settling into the cabins, Diana leads the sprawling family deeper into the camp, unlocking the old, creaking wooden cabins. The air inside is thick with dust, the screen doors rattle on rusted hinges, and the surrounding woods are dead silent. Diana hands over the keys with a sweet, helpful customer service smile. Diana, let me know if you guys need anything else at all. Enjoy your stay. She politely steps outside, shutting the creaky screen door behind her. The very second Diana is out of earshot, one of the cousins, Amy, a total high-maintenance princess type, drops her expensive designer bags onto a dusty mattress, looks around the room in absolute disgust, and loudly bitches to her family. Amy, oh my god, when did they fucking clean this place? There are literally spiders everywhere. This is biohazard territory. How are we supposed to sleep in this garbage? The family just rolls her eyes and laughs at her total meltdown. Annoyed and refusing to stay inside, Amy grabs a towel, storms right back out the door, and decides to leave the cabin behind entirely. The Watcher in the Woods. As the afternoon sun begins to dip below the treeline, casting long, jagged shadows across the camp, the camera slowly drifts back into the thick brush. Through the parting leaves, we get a heavily obscured, towering POV shot. A massive, heavily rotted figure stands perfectly still in the darkness of the forest, completely hidden from the camp. The heavy, ragged breathing of Jason Voorhees fills the audio track as his eyes lock onto Amy. He watches her stomp down the isolated dirt road, completely separating herself from the rest of the family as she heads toward a secluded, private edge of the lake. Up at the cabins, Diana is just seen casually walking back to the main office in the background, looking completely oblivious. The two-angle setup. Down by the isolated shoreline, Amy complains to herself about her family, kicks off her clothes, and slips into the calm water for a private skinny dip to wash off the camp dust. She floats completely on her back, gently treading water, closes her eyes, and lets out a long sigh to relax. Angle 1, 000 to 003, the camera starts in a tight, top-down angle looking straight down at her face. It holds there on her front profile for 3 seconds of absolute, undisturbed peace. Angle 2, 003 to 006, right on the 3rd second, the camera cuts to a tight side profile angle, framing the side of her face resting right at the water line. The camera holds on this side view for another 3 seconds. The water right next to her looks pitch black, murky, and completely still. The sudden strike and the floating corpse. Before Amy can even open her eyes, Jason's massive, rotting hand violently bursts straight up out of the dark water from the side and slams down hard over her entire face, instantly smothering her scream. In one powerful, seamless motion, he yanks her straight down beneath the surface. Underwater, his overwhelming strength holds her under until she completely stops struggling. Once she goes totally limp, Jason releases her and melts back into the dark depths. After a few chilling moments, Amy's lifeless body slowly floats back up to the surface. She surfaces completely face down, leaving her back and backside exposed, bobbing silently in the quiet, undisturbed water. Because she is hidden in a secluded, drifted corner of the shoreline, her floating form goes entirely unnoticed by the camp. Scott's search. Back up at the cabins, Amy's boyfriend, Scott, is getting restless. She's been gone too long, and despite the rest of the family laughing off her temper tantrum, Scott decides to walk down the isolated dirt road to go check on her, calling her name into the trees. The discovery and the crossbow strike. Scott reaches the secluded shoreline and sweeps his eyes over the water. Suddenly, his heart drops. He sees Amy's body floating face down, her backside completely exposed. Scott screams out in pure horror, panicking completely. Without thinking, he kicks off his shoes and dives straight into the lake, desperately swimming out to her, screaming her name through the splashes. What Scott doesn't see is the massive silhouette of Jason Voorhees standing completely still on the opposite shoreline, shrouded in the heavy shadows of the trees. Jason smoothly raises a heavy, rusted hunting crossbow, tracking Scott as he gets closer and closer to the floating corpse. Just as Scott reaches Amy and stretches his hand out, thwack! Jason fires. The heavy steel bolt slams directly into the back of Scott's head with massive, pinning force. The momentum of the high-powered shot drives the arrow clean through his skull, exiting his forehead, where it violently drives straight forward and gets permanently wedged deep inside Amy's exposed ass crack. The sheer force of the bolt locks his face right into her backside, and the two bodies collide and lock together, bobbing obscenely in the quiet water. On the far shore, Jason slowly lowers the crossbow and melts back into the dark woods. Some cousins, completely oblivious to the horror at the lake, wander over to the rusted, forgotten archery range near the main clearing to kill some time. Thwip! Thwack! An arrow slams perfectly into the yellow bullseye of a rotting straw target. One of the cousins cheers, throwing his hands up. Cousin. Dead center. I'm telling you, I'm basically a pro. Who's next? They are laughing and joking in the afternoon sunlight, totally relaxed. They don't hear a thing from the water, just the sound of their own voices and the occasional thud of an arrow hitting the target frame. They are completely peaceful, having no idea that their family members are dead a few hundred yards away. The night falls. It is only much later, once night falls completely and the main campfires are lit, that the family finally realizes neither Amy nor Scott ever came back. Because they took off alone, there are absolutely no signs of a struggle near the cabins to trigger an alarm. The family has no idea a killer is loose. Part 2. ACT2. The campfire intrusion. The growing anxiety. It's late evening, and the atmosphere has completely shifted. The family is huddled tightly around the campfire, but no one is relaxing. They are speaking in low, tense voices, trying to piece together where Amy and Scott went. The dark tree line feels like it's closing in on them. The vulnerable caretaker. Right as the panic is starting to build, Diana casually walks up one of the main camp paths, just finishing up her evening rounds. She looks entirely sweet, harmless, and completely unaware of the horror hiding in the woods. Seeing the family huddled up, she politely steps over into the warm firelight, looking small and vulnerable. To the viewing audience, she looks like the classic, textbook next victim who is about to get slaughtered. The innocent reassurance. Seeing their worried faces, Diana just naturally gets drawn into the conversation, offering a gentle, friendly perspective to try and reassure them. Diana. Hey, everything okay? I couldn't help but overhear. Honestly, don't worry about them. It happens out here all the time when people come down to visit. It's just such a beautiful kind of forest, you know. Once people see a certain path or a nice lookout point, they just keep going for a long time. They completely lose track of the hours. The trails around here are gorgeous, but they take a really long time to walk. They're probably just on their way back right now, just taking their time enjoying the night. They'll be back here before you know it, don't worry. Just stick by the fire. The lore interruption. As they talk, the conversation shifts into local history, and Diana casually mentions the name Elias Voorhees. Suddenly, one of the family members cuts her off, butting in with a knowing smirk. Wait, Elias. Don't you mean Jason Voorhees? The explanation. Diana doesn't look bothered at all. She just gives a soft, innocent little laugh and shakes her head, explaining the deeper history like a helpful local guide. Diana. Oh, no, everyone always jumps straight to Jason because of the camp legends. But long before Jason, there was Elias. He was Jason's father. And honestly, he was the real monster who started all of this. He was an incredibly cruel, abusive man who completely terrorized Jason's mother, Pamela, when they lived out here. The things he did to her, it broke her mind, and it's what ultimately triggered the curse on this entire family line. Jason might be the name everyone knows now, but Elias is the one who created the nightmare. The departure. The family hangs on every word, completely reassured by her normal, everyday attitude. Diana stands up, dusts off her pants, and gives them a warm smile. Cut to. Behind cabin 4, the barbecue. The area is shrouded in deep shadow, lit only by the glowing charcoal of a rusted grill. Mr. Bogger stands there, sweat slicked, flipping a rack of ribs. He's wearing his bulky, oversized headphones, the thin metal frame digging into his skull. The tinny, high-pitched beat of a Britney Spears record leaks out of the foam cups. He's in his own world, swaying slightly to the music, enjoying his secret hobby. Mr. Bogger is putting extra barbecue on the ribs, but then suddenly, a heavy, cold hand taps his shoulder. Bogger doesn't look. He just rips the headphones off and lets out a frustrated, explosive bitch fit without turning his head. Bogger. For the love of, look, I told you I'm handling the ribs. Get off my back and go grab a beer, okay? Just let me cook in peace for 5 minutes. He spins around, ready to chew out his wife, his face contorted in anger, only to find himself staring straight into the dead, white-eyed, rotted visage of Jason Voorhees. Bogger's rage instantly vanishes, replaced by a look of sheer, paralyzing terror. Before he can even choke out a breath, Jason grabs him by the hair and violently slams his face down onto the thick, heavy metal lid of the closed barbecue. The sound is a dull, sickening thud of bone against steel. Jason then rips the lid open. With bone-crushing force, he slams Bogger's face directly down into the red-hot metal grate of the grill. Back to campfire. Diana. Well, I'm going to head back to the main office to double-check the books, lock up the equipment, and make sure everything is exactly where it needs to be for the night. You guys just stay right here by the warm fire, okay? She turns and walks up the trail, disappearing into the darkness. Just as she exits the firelight, a high, blood-curdling scream of agony erupts from behind cabin 4. The family jolts. Bogger's wife rolls her eyes, nursing her whine. Mrs. Bogger. Oh, for God's sake. That man is a walking disaster. He probably just burnt his hand on the grill again. He did the exact same thing last week. I'll go deal with him. Just stay here. She stomps off into the dark toward the cabin. Cut to. Behind cabin 4, the barbecue. The grill is silent now, with Mr. Bogger's head clamped firmly beneath the heavy metal lid. Jason stands in the flickering shadows, his heavy, ragged breathing the only sound in the small, isolated space. He notices the bulky, 90s-style metal headphones still resting on Bogger's slumped shoulders and the silver Walkman clipped to his belt. Jason reaches down, pulls the headphones free, and snatches the Walkman. Curious, he clumsily slides the thin, metal band over his own massive head. The headphones are comically small, straining against the sides of his rotted mask, but they settle into place. The moment they make contact, the tinny, high-pitched beat of Britney Spears, "Oops. I did it again," asterisk blasts directly into his ears. Jason tilts his head, listening. The upbeat, pop rhythm clashes violently with his hulking, murderous silhouette. He stands there for a beat, swaying slightly, before a surge of pure, murderous irritation washes over him. He rips the headphones off with a violent, resentful grudge. With a sudden, visceral crunch, he clenches his fist, the reinforced metal frame and plastic earcups buckling and splintering under his inhuman grip. He tosses the mangled, sparking mess onto the ground, the force of the drop causing the wire to snap and the plug to rip clean out of the Walkman, silencing the music instantly. Now holding only the silver Walkman, Jason pivots and hurls it backward over his shoulder with a violent, backhanded snap. Thwack. Asterisk. Bogger's wife rounds the corner just as the projectile leaves his hand. The solid, brick-like Walkman catches her square in the center of the forehead with the force of a falling anvil. Her skull caves in with a sickening crunch, and she drops instantly into the high grass with a short, stifled scream. Jason pauses, his head tilting and thinking, "What was that?" He turns around and looms over her. In a moment of bizarre, slapstick horror, he stares down at her. The Walkman hasn't just hit her, it has embedded itself perfectly into her forehead, lodged deep in the bone like a bizarre, silver third eye. Jason stands there, his white eyes staring down at the device protruding from her skull. It's totally silent. No music, no buzzing, just the brick of a Walkman sticking out of her head. He looks at it, looks at her, and then gives a single, confused, and annoyed shrug. He turns his back on the absurdity and vanishes back into the trees. Part 3. ACT 3. The Invisible Harvest. The Divided Search. The campfire is dying down. The family sits in a heavy, uneasy silence. One of the cousins stands up, pointing toward the trailhead. "Jake, look, I know she said they're just walking, but it's been hours. We have to go look for them." The group reluctantly agrees, breaking into 3 groups of 2. They head into the woods, unaware they are walking into a slaughter. The woods come alive. The woods seem to breathe. The ambient sounds of the night cut out, replaced by a suffocating silence. Jason is already moving, shifting between the pines like smoke. He waits for the stragglers. Flashlights flicker and die, crushed like soda cans. One by one, family members vanish into the thick brush without a sound. The systematic purge. The pattern repeats with brutal efficiency. In the second group, a sudden thwack of a machete causes the pair to freeze. One screams as a massive hand drags them into the darkness. The remaining partner sprints forward, sobbing, only to slam face first into a tree when she looked back. A gloved hand closes over her face, snuffing out their light and life. In the third group, Tim, Jake, and Kate run as the forest turns against them. They hear Joe's wife calling out from the darkness, or what sounds like her, only to find her hanging lifeless from a tree. Before they can react, Tim is grabbed from behind and hauled into the brush, his cries cut short by a sickening crunch. The dead end. Jake and Kate are the only ones left. Terror-stricken, they scramble out of the tree line and burst into the parking lot. "Jake. The cars. We can make it to the cars." They reach the vehicles, their chests heaving, but the hope dies in their eyes instantly. Every single car has been systematically destroyed. Tires are slashed into ribbons, windshields are shattered into crystalline dust, and the hoods of the engines have been pried open like tin cans, the inner wiring ripped out and scattered across the asphalt. Kate, sobbing. "We're trapped. We can't drive anywhere." Jake. "We'll be fine, just gonna keep moving." They look around, making sure Jason's not in sight, but at the very end of the dock, they see Diana standing by the edge of the water. Now, out by the cold water, she has finally thrown on a thick, cozy red sweater. Thinking she is just a defenseless civilian who has no idea a killer is loose, the survivors scream at her to run and race down the planks to grab her so they can all escape together. To the horror fans in the theater, that red sweater hits like a massive lightning bolt of a reveal. The twist. Diana doesn't run. She doesn't even flinch. She slowly turns around to face them, the moonlight hitting the thick red sweater. Instead of panicking, a dark, unsettling laugh ripples out of her. The survivors skid to a halt, completely confused as her timid caretaker mask completely vanishes. The final truth. Standing tall, she looks at the exhausted, terrified survivors and delivers the true ending to her story. "Diana, do you remember the story I told you around the campfire? About Elias Voorhees? About the monster who abused Pamela? Let me finish that story. Everyone thinks they know what happened back in 1980. They think Mommy was the only killer out here. But Elias had a daughter. He had me, and right around the time those camp counselors started dying, I quietly killed him. I was just a student, and I did it so cleanly that the police just assumed he was another one of Mommy's victims. She took the blame for me. But a sin like that marks your soul. Years later, when my brother Jason caught up with me and killed me, I was sent straight to hell for what I did to our father. I spent decades in the dark, clawing my way back out of the dirt just to get back to this lake. But I didn't do it alone. One of Jason's oldest enemies actually helped me out from the inside. He was whispering in the shadows, chanting a name, building up the power to tear open the gate and push me through. He wanted me back here, but he never actually explained why. When I finally crawled out, Jason was waiting right here on this dock. He didn't recognize me. He just saw a trespasser. He raised his machete, coming right at me to slice me in half. I was terrified. I thought I was going to die all over again. But right before the blade hit, Mommy took over my mind. She broke through to save her daughter. She's right here in my brain now, and she screamed his name in her true voice, stopping him dead in his tracks. The possession. Diana taps her temple, a chilling, dual-layered smile spreading across her face as Pamela's consciousness completely floods her. Her posture shifts into Pamela's cold, dominant stance, and her voice splits and layers into a raspy, iconic tone. Diana, layered with Pamela Voorhees. I provide the mind, the face, the listings to bring her food, and he provides the muscle. We are a family again. And you just tried to take her boy away from her. You think he's trapped down there. You don't understand. He listens to Mommy now. I control him. The jump scare. She looks down at the dark water, and Pamela's voice takes over completely, screeching into the night. Diana, Pamela, Jason. Right on cue, the lake violently explodes directly behind her. Jason Voorhees bursts out of the water, clearing the drops, and lands heavily right next to her on the wooden planks. The massive, soaking wet killer stands shoulder to shoulder with his sister. The Blackout Massacre. Diana stands back in her red sweater, smiling with total satisfaction as Jason steps forward, raising his machete. The camera aggressively cuts to a dead silent, pitch-black screen. In the pitch dark, the horrific audio hits. The heavy thud of boots, tearing fabric, shattering wood, the brutal crunch of breaking bones, and desperate screams that suddenly cut short. The epilogue and credits fade in. A bright, beautiful, sunny afternoon at Camp Crystal Lake. The horror of the night before has been completely erased. A brand new customer steps out of an SUV, looking around the peaceful, isolated grounds. They smile and shake Diana's hand. New customer. Wow, you weren't kidding on the listing, Diana. This place is completely isolated. We have the whole camp to ourselves. Diana, standing tall in her signature thick red sweater, gives them a warm, polite customer service smile. Her voice is sweet and completely normal. Diana, oh, absolutely. It's just you and me. Let me show you to your cabins. As she turns to lead them into the camp, the camera tracks forward, locking into a tight, intense close-up on her face. That polite customer service mask completely slips, twisting into that unhinged, terrifying Pamela Voorhees grin. Smash cut to black. 001 to 003. Total blackness. A soft, raspy, barely audible chuckle starts in the dark. Diana's normal laugh. 003 to 006. Without stopping, the laugh steadily builds, getting louder and louder as it warps into that iconic, manic Pamela Voorhees cackle. Right as her cackle hits its peak, Freddy Krueger's deep, mocking, sinister laugh bleeds directly over top of hers, stealing the soundscape and taking over completely until his laugh is the only thing echoing in the theater. 006 to 009. The laughter abruptly cuts off. Total, dead silence for 3 long seconds. The audience is left holding their breath in the pitch black. 009. Schwip. 4 razor-sharp, rusted steel blades violently slice right down through the black screen from top to bottom with an iconic, screeching metallic scrape. Through the 4 distinct gashes left by the hidden glove, the deep red credits finally start rolling down the screen in complete silence. The post-credits stinger. The credits completely finish scrolling. The screen remains entirely pitch black for several seconds in total, dead silence. Suddenly, out of the quiet, a faint, raspy audio recording hits the speakers. The first half of the line delivers in Pamela Voorhees' unmistakable, iconic voice. Pamela, V.O. Kill her, Jason. Right in the middle of the breath, the audio heavily feeds back and distorts. The voice completely morphs and warps, and it is Freddy Krueger's deep, echoing, malicious tone that takes over to finish the sentence perfectly in line with the movie's lore. Freddy, V.O. Kill her for mommy. Immediately following his words, Freddy's signature, mocking cackle explodes through the dark theater, completely drowning out the room and leaving the ultimate, terrifying question hanging in the air. Smash cut to absolute silence.